Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. How is everybody today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever it is you are joining us. How is everybody? I hope everybody is doing well. Well, it is a Saturday here. It is a Saturday evening, actually, where we are. And it's been a relatively busy day. Um, got up this morning, did some PJs and pancakes at my kid's school. So that was fun. Took her over to her grandma's. Came home, did some cleaning. Got some Christmas stuff out. Took care of some house things. Didn't decorate because neither of the kids are here. So wait for them to come home and do that. But yeah. If you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Glad everybody's here. Today we are gonna jump back into the Nicole Nachtman. Yep, that's her name, Nicole Nachtman trial. The young lady who is facing 2 counts of first-degree murder for the death of her mom and stepfather. And this took place in Florida back in 2015. The trial was in 2018. So yeah. That's what we're watching. I didn't have another trial to do right at this moment, and this one caught my attention just because I liked the judge, thought it would be interesting. There's some mental health issues flying around. I think the defense is going for the insanity defense, so that should be interesting. They haven't really done a whole lot just yet. The doctor's testimonies are coming in later. So, maybe that will affect something and show a little bit more of the defense's strategy and tell a little bit more about her mental state and what they're trying to prove. But I just wanted to remind everybody that I'm not an expert, nor do I specialize in any particular area of educational information, legal information. I'm just here to add my opinions and my commentary, and my critical judgment and my bias and all of those good things on various topics or subjects that I find interesting or entertaining at the time. So if you find this content to your satisfaction or enjoyment, you enjoy it, you like it, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, that like button. You can go ahead and share it with others, get it out into the universe, bump it up into the algorithm and share it with the world. That would be greatly appreciated. So we are gonna continue with this. We are still talking to detectives and CSI in day 2. So this is still kind of the boring stuff, personally. It's not that entertaining to me. But, I mean, it gets the technicalities out of the way. But, you know. Okay. Let's get it going.
Ready, Judge?
Yes, we are.
All rise, jury.
All members of the jury are present and seated. Everyone else going to be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off. I'm going to ask the state to call the next witness.
Robert Durr.
Robert Durr. Mr. Durr, good afternoon and welcome. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. You'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony that you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone does adjust if you need to move it around. Ms. Harry, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
It's Robert A. Durr III, and it's D-E-R.
Thank you.
Durr the third.
Yes,
Where are you employed?
at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
And in what position?
I'm a crime scene investigator.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
About 12 and a half years.
Were you employed with the Sheriff's Office as a crime scene investigator in August of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an opportunity to respond to a scene at Finsbury Drive on August 20th of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you responded to the scene at that time, approximately what time did you arrive?
I arrived at about 10 minutes to 11 in the evening.
Okay. And at that time, at approximately 11 o'clock on the 20th, were other law enforcement already present?
Yes, ma'am.
Was the scene secure?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there other crime scene investigators already on scene?
Yes, ma'am.
When you arrived at the scene on that date, were you working with another crime scene investigator?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
I was working with CSI Becker and CSI Hall.
Okay. And was Caitlin Hall, were you working hand in hand with Ms. Hall at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she sort of in training at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you someone who was sort of supervising her?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your task or your assignment?
He's been in the
Ms. Hall's assignment
military.
when you responded together at that time?
So on the 20th, my duties mainly were with the diagram of the outside.
Okay, the exterior of the residence.
On the, well, it was kind of the neighbors.
And that was going to be my question. The scene that was actually being processed by the sheriff's office, was that the address at 14110 Finsbury?
I'll have to double check, but yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the diagram that you did of the exterior of the residence, was that actually 14108 Finsbury?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to that time, had you had experience in preparing diagrams of scenes?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you know what area to diagram, measurements to take, that sort of thing? Who directed you on that?
So I talked with the on-scene detectives, and a lot of it is kind of left to us in a way on
Your
what we need to measure and where from.
Don't interrupt, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Durr, I'm showing you it's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 52. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate depiction of the diagram that you just described that you prepared of the exterior of the residence at 14108 Finsbury?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, this time I ask to move into evidence State's Exhibit 52.
Any objection?
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
And ask for permission to publish.
You may publish it.
All right, Mr. Durr, I'm going to zoom out here. In this diagram that we see of 14108, there's sort of a swinging, I believe what would be a door kind of dead center of the page. Would that have been the front door to the residence at 14108?
Yes, ma'am.
In this diagram, you have a legend listed in the middle of it. What is that a legend of?
So that would be the evidence markers,
Okay.
1, 2, and 3, which would have been cartridge cases.
At the
Yeah.
time that you prepared this diagram, were those evidence markers already in place in the location that we see in this photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you just actually took sort of the measurements of it and put it in the diagram?
Yes, ma'am.
On the diagram, we see latitude and longitude, I believe. Is that correct? Or those distances?
Those are distances either south or east from
From what place?
the reference point, which is labeled as RP,
Okay.
which would have been that corner. As we're looking at it, would have been kind of the southeast corner.
And the southeast corner, is that that line there that we see kind of where RP is pointing to, would that have been the garage of the residence at 14108?
Yes, ma'am.
The evidence markers that were at 1, 2, and 3, did you disturb or remove those in any way?
No, ma'am.
Did you take any role in collecting those items?
No, ma'am.
Did you have any other involvement at the scene on August the 20th of 2015?
Just was assisting grabbing bags or anything that CSI Becker needed at the time,
Okay.
just additional equipment.
Did you also
Okay,
make
so
a
done
call
with you
back out
now.
to residents the following day on the 21st in the evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also assisting Ms. Hall at that time as she was in training as her processing of the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you and Ms. Hall do on the 21st at the residence?
I know she took photographs of some of the inside of residents. There were some areas of red blood-like substance that she marked and collected, and then we did some blue star photographs.
If you could tell us, what is Blue Star?
So blue star is a chemical that reacts with blood-like items and creates it to glow a bright blue, which allows us to then take photographs of it to make things that are not visible.
How do you make a decision at a crime scene to utilize Blue Star?
If we see any areas of possible blood located throughout the scene, and then our detectives will do the request for it.
Okay. Is it also something that you might use if it appears the scene has been cleaned in some way?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jordan, showing the pre-marked States Exhibit 27A through X. Could you take a look at those photographs and let me know if you recognize them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do those appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the photographs that you and Ms. Hall took on the 21st?
Look at these photographs.
Submit estimate evidence to Exhibit 27A through X.
No objection. They'll be admitted.
I can't help sing that song every time
States Exhibit
in
27A.
every
Mr.
trial.
Jordan, you could tell us, what are the, in this photograph, it appears to be pretty dark. What conditions do you need to take pictures and see this blue star that you described?
So we do need it to be relatively dark. It doesn't have to be pitch
With a
black.
black light.
But it has to be dark enough, and it is considered a low light photography method in order to capture it. So it's kind of like leaving the shutter open for a while to allow as much light in as possible from the blue areas.
Okay, so in this photograph, we see sort of reflecting or glowing areas. Is that areas where the blue star is sort of lighting up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how do you apply the blue star?
It's a spray, so it's an aerosol spray. It's water-based, and then we use a hand aerosol pump to spray it out.
Okay, States Exhibit 27B.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, in States Exhibit 27A, what area of the home is this?
That is in the laundry room. So you see the floor, and then where it's up vertical, that would be the washing machine.
Okay. States Exhibit 27B, what is this photograph of?
So that is in one of the bedrooms. You can actually see I'm captured partly in the photo.
And that was going to be my question. We can kind of see a person in the upper right corner of this photograph. Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
And it appears that you're actually doing something with a bottle. We see gloves. What are you doing in this picture?
That is the blue star, and I'm administering it, so I'm actually spraying.
And in this photograph, we see it looks like kind of like booties on your feet. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you wear those as you're
Booties.
residents doing these various items of collecting items and processing?
Yes, ma'am.
States Exhibit
She
27C.
said booties.
And actually, I'm sorry, 27B. Do you recall what bedroom of the house this was?
Not exactly.
Okay.
I know it was on the south side, but it was kind of the back.
Okay. At the time that you went in there to perform this blue star, is it fair to say that the room looked as it does in this picture and there was no body in the room?
Yes, ma'am.
27C, what area of the home is this?
So that's the same bedroom, but that's the door leading out into the hallway.
And States Exhibit 27D. You can see what area this is.
It appears to be that hallway area and the lighted area where it's kind of the orangey color. That would have been back towards the kitchen area.
Okay. Of the home, and going into like kind of the family room area.
Yes, ma'am.
And 27B. Can you tell what area this is?
No, ma'am, I cannot.
Okay, let me bring the picture to you.
It's a
That
little
might
hard.
help. It's really dark. 27A.
You can see there we have some kind of a cabinet area off to on the right-hand
Okay.
side of it. But
So some kind of cabinet area you were indicating here on the right side.
yes, ma'am.
And again, the very faint blue that's the blue star that you've been describing.
Yes, ma'am.
27F, what area of the home is this?
So that's going to be the kitchen area. On the right-hand side, we can see kind of the kitchen, or sorry, the left-hand side, we can see the kitchen island. On the right would be the stove.
27G. Can you see this item in the back to tell you what area of the home this is?
We're still in the kitchen area. That looks to be the refrigerator.
Okay, and it appears that there's some blue lighting on the refrigerator itself. Do you recall that as well?
Down there at the very bottom, yes, ma'am.
27H. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am. So that would be in the hall bathroom.
The blue star in this picture appears to sort of be all over the floor. Do you recall?
Yes, ma'am.
And 27I. Do you recall what area of the home this is?
So that would be in the kitchen area also. From the other photo that we had of the kitchen where we had the island, you can see where the broom was. The broom was leaning up next to the stove.
Okay.
And then in the bottom corner, we kind of have the edge of the refrigerator.
27J. Can you tell or do you recall what area of the home this is?
We're still in the kitchen area.
And 27K.
So that would be the top of the washing machine.
Okay. Now, the blue star, what the reflection that we see, this blue lighting that we see reflecting, what is that an indication of in your training?
So it is areas of possible blood.
Okay. And let me stop you there. You say possible blood. Do you perform, as a crime scene investigator with the sheriff's office, do you perform any type of confirmatory testing to confirm whether it's actually blood?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it's an area of possible blood.
Yes, ma'am.
Can it also fluoresce with, can other things also fluoresce and cause a blue light?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
Some types of soaps and other cleaning chemicals can cause that to happen.
Okay.
Also.
So when you see this blue light that we've seen all throughout this photograph, and it's telling you there's areas of possible blood, do you as crime scene investigators then perform a second test to sort of see if maybe it is in fact blood without the blue light?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
We use a test that's called phenolphthalein.
Okay.
And
And is that also a presumptive test for blood?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, this blue light that we see here, and I'm sorry, what is this?
That's the top of the washing
Maybe
machine.
you said that, I missed it, my fault. Did you perform a phenolphthalein test on that washing machine to determine, again, another presumptive test for the presence of blood?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were the results of that testing?
We got positive results.
What other areas, in the pictures that we saw where the blue star fluoresced, what other areas did you perform phenolphthalein testing on, and what were the results, if you could tell us?
Pretty much every area that tested, that showed the blue, we did test the phenolphthalein. In the living room area, there was a couch and a recliner. It was in the living room, the size of those. The floor near that washing machine.
I'm gonna approach and show you State's Exhibit 27D because it's so dark.
That's the edge of the couch, and I don't remember exactly what the recliner was.
Okay, is that what you're referring to as an area that was a positive phenolphthalein?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated in 27D, the couch here in the top middle of the photograph.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can continue.
So the floor next to the washing machine, so in the first photo that you showed, and
27A, these blue lights here towards the floor of the washing machine.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then the top of the washing machine, we also,
And is that it?
let me check here. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Darrell. That's the witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I need to just ask you a question about the diagram. I think what you had said to Ms. Derry was that your reference point was from the corner of the garage where the RP is.
Yes, ma'am.
On this diagram, and that's what the legend means.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess, are you able to tell me how far marker number 1 was from the actual body of Mrs. Deans?
No, ma'am, I don't measure from, I measure from a fixed point, not from anything that potentially can move.
And the same thing would be for marker number 2 and number 3, so I would have to rely on someone else that might have taken those measurements, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have been at the request of the detective at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went on August 21st back to the house on Fensbury, together with crime scene technician Hall, were you already aware that on August 20th, going then into the morning, early morning hours of August 21st, that crime scene technician Garment had already been there and had already performed some phenol to test certain areas of the house? Did anyone tell you that?
When we arrived on scene, yes, ma'am, the other areas had already been tested. Yes, ma'am.
You were brought at the direction at someone other than Detective Thomas?
Yes, ma'am. We met with Detective Lugo.
And at that point, he had identified for you areas that he wanted you to photograph and areas that he wanted you to perform Blue Star and Pheno on. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And both Blue Star is to tell you that there might possibly be blood, and then Pheno is a presumptive test, which obviously both of them can give off false positives. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And just for my edification and that of the jury, what is a false positive?
It can react and give you a positive result when it is not necessarily confirmed later to be.
And for instance, you would expect to find in areas such as a washing machine, detergents and chemicals and things of that sort, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the same could be true of, the same could be true of, for instance, on a couch area, if some type of cleaning has been done on a couch area with some type of detergents, again, you could have a reaction. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the reaction that we were seeing in the one picture that Ms. Derry showed you, which I think was 27D, which involved potentially the recliner also.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Blue Star was alongside of the recliner.
I don't recall. The couch, it was kind of all on the side, the arm area and down the side of it.
And you can't recall specifically on the recliner, but the photograph was dark. If I show you the photograph, you think you could determine from the photograph?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. One more question from my co-counsel. Is the diagram that we've had introduced here today the only diagram that you prepared?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was of the home at 14108. You were not asked to do any type of diagram of 14110 at all on the exterior. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
And were you asked to do any type of diagram or any type of measurements between the two houses, 14108 and 14110 Fensbury at all?
No, ma'am.
And were you asked in any way to measure for any distances, perhaps from where Mrs. Dean's body was found to the residence at 14110 in the way?
Not that I recall.
And again, had you been asked to do that by detective, obviously you would have done that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
No, I would have said no.
This would be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense.
So, Sean,
Thank you. Make that down. You may be excused as a witness at this time. Now I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Jacob, excuse me, Your Honor. Jacob Becker.
Jacob Becker. Becker, good afternoon. If you'll face me, raise your right hand, be sworn. Thank you. You swear affirming testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you. If you follow the
Nope,
oath around,
I'm
please.
gonna lie. I cannot
Go ahead and have a
promise.
seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone is adjusted. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Becker. Could you please tell the jury your name, spell your last name for the reporter,
Jacob Becker, BECKER.
and how are you employed, Mr. Becker?
I'm currently employed as a shift supervisor in the Forensic Services Section for the Pasco County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been working, is that with the crime scene investigation?
That's correct.
Okay. And how long have you been working over at Pasco County?
For a year and a half now.
Prior to working as a crime scene investigator at Pasco County, did you work anywhere else?
I worked for Hillsborough County as a crime scene investigator from 2006 to 2018. And prior to that, with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office as a crime scene investigator in 2002.
So back in 2015, you would have been working with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office as a crime scene investigator. Is that accurate?
That's right.
Do you recall specifically being called out to a scene on August 20th of 2015?
I do.
And were you the first, tell me, when did you get called out there?
I received a call from dispatch at approximately 9:45 that evening, and I got on scene around a little bit after 10:30.
Were you one of the first crime scene investigators to arrive at the scene?
I was.
And when you got there, was law enforcement already there?
Yes, they were.
And were crime scene were detectives already there as well?
I don't recall if there was detectives, but I'm sure they were on the way.
And at some point or another, you were tasked with doing sort of job at the scene?
That's correct.
Okay, and what were you tasked with?
Just photography, evidence collection for evidence that was outside of the residence.
Did you ever go inside 14110? Is the actual crime scene?
I did not.
Did you go inside 14108 anytime?
I believe so, yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
I guess the neighbor stated that they saw somebody leaving through a window. So I photographed from her point of view what she possibly saw.
Wow,
While you're out there,
window.
that night you took some pictures, correct?
I did.
I'm gonna show you what are marked as states exhibits 1P through 1T.
Did I miss that?
Just have you take a quick look through and see if you recognize these pictures.
Maybe.
Do you recognize the pictures?
I do.
What are the pictures of?
Probably.
This is the driveway. I'm not sure what the address that is actually, if it's 14108 or 14110. It's the driveway where the decedent was found, along with some tent markers that I placed for evidence.
Do they fairly and accurately resemble what the area looked like that day in the driveway?
Yes.
Move that states exhibit 1, P2, and then evidence.
Any objection?
No, no objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
They'll be admitted.
Publish, Your Honor.
You may.
That's the mailbox we just referring to as 14110.
Correct?
And that's looking towards the driveway where the deceased was found.
That's right.
And then that was 1P. 1Q. This is the driveway after the deceased has been removed. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And these markers, these cones, were the things you had placed down as marked.
That's right.
And then R. Just another picture of that. And 1S. This picture, what is that picture of?
I believe that is the residence where the other decedent was found.
Right, those were the vehicles that were parked there on the side they were parked.
That's correct.
And then 1T, that's the front of that other residence.
That's correct.
I'm also going to show you where I marked the states exhibit 2A through S. Can you look through those things and see if you recognize them? Do you recognize those?
I do.
What are those pictures of?
These would be overalls of the scene where the decedent was found in the driveway, along with her injuries.
And do those pictures fairly and accurately look like when the pictures you took when you were out there on that evening?
They do.
Judge Booth, that states exhibit 2A through S admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
They'll be admitted.
Wonder if ever anybody's
Were you
ever
allowed to
said
see the
no.
Yes, it was.
I don't know
That's
these
fairly required
what these
to be around
pictures
pictures
are.
coming in and out of the application.
That's correct.
Right, and I take it, obviously, it's the following pictures of the body was still there when you were alive.
That's right.
So showing you what's been marked as states exhibit number 2A. Again, this is the location of the body when you arrived.
That's correct.
And did you move it in any way before taking these pictures?
I did not.
And these orange cones that are right around her, did you take, or did you put those cones down there?
I did not. Those were placed by deputies to mark the position of the shell casings prior to my arrival.
And then 2B, this is a picture from another angle, is that accurate?
That's correct.
And 2C, that would be looking down the driveway facing basically the opposite direction of the original picture I showed in 2A, correct?
That's correct.
2D, this is just from the other side, is that accurate?
That's correct.
Now, in 2B, it appears at this point you've now just put out the evidence markers. Why do you put out evidence markers versus just leaving the cones?
It just gives a better visual representation.
And do the numbers also help in knowing where you're picking up things and where you should have evidence came from?
That'd be correct.
Now, I noticed in this picture, it looks like there's on the body of Mary Dean's, looks like there's a blue kind of a mark there or a thing on her arm there.
Mhm.
You know what that is?
I do.
Okay, what is that?
It's referred to as a lead, which is a device that EMS would place on a person to get any electrical activity from the heart.
Did you see EMS actually do that, or was that on there when you got there?
I did not see EMS.
Now, in this picture, there's marker number 1, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and this will be a close-up of that,
That's correct.
and that's the casing. Is that accurate?
That's a casing, yes.
What is a casing? Explain to the jury what a casing is.
Basically, the common phrase is the bullet. So you have the bullet and the casing. When a gun is fired, the bullet or the projectile is spun through the chamber of the barrel of the gun, and then the casing is ejected. So what's left behind is just evidence that a gun was fired.
Now, the location of the casing, does that tell you anything?
It can, but on concrete, things like that are hard, the casings can
They
bounce, they can roll,
bounce.
they can be kicked around. So it gives you a general perspective of where somebody was when they shot the gun, but it doesn't actually say they were standing right there.
And then picture number 2G
Do you know how
has a
things
picture
just
of the bullets.
bounce?
Picture
They
number
just
1.
bounce.
Sorry, in the picture just before it, marker number 1.
Yes, that is the 380 Hornady casing.
And then in 2H, we have over here on this side, marker number 2, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And this is the feet of the pieces, correct? And then 2I, you take one closer photo of marker number 2.
That's correct.
And then 2J, this is the casing for marker number 2.
That's correct.
What does it say it is?
It's a 380 Auto Hornady casing.
In 2K, you see marker number 3, right?
That's correct.
And then 2L, more close up of that casing.
Correct.
Now, the casing in this picture can be a little bit deceptive because of how it's located in the colored driveway. But
I'm going to object to the leading nature of the question and the characterization.
I'm sorry, I'll rephrase. In marker number 3, can you tell me where the casing is located?
It would
in the
be
picture?
towards the middle of the picture, almost exactly middle.
Almost exactly in the middle. So right there.
Yes.
Yeah, right there. And then did you
I
see the
don't
casing
know
located
why
inside
it
the
is so choppy.
In photograph 2N, picture of Mary Dean's, there's again those blue markers on near her ankles. Are those the leads we're referring to?
Okay.
Okay, and again, in 2O, you see it on the other elbow as well, correct?
That's correct.
Were those the only places you saw the markers?
Yes, the ankles and the elbows.
Now, while you're out there, does the medical examiner show up?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Prior to the medical examiner showing up, do you turn the body, move the body, or do anything with the body?
Absolutely not.
Now, once the medical examiner arrives, does the medical examiner look at the body to see if they can find any obvious signs of injury as to what may occur?
Yes.
All right. And do you stay with the medical examiner so you do that take photographs of the injuries?
I do.
All right. In picture number 2P. What injury did the
2P or not
medical examiner
2P?
refer to that you're taking a picture of?
I believe it's just an overall
That is the
injury to the face and the head.
question.
Okay. It's been in chest, like over is that like a cut?
I'm not sure if that might be an eyebrow, but also might be a gash.
She said an eyebrow?
And then in 2Q, was that again discovered once the medical examiner was there?
Yes.
And what did that appear to be?
To my knowledge, that's a gunshot type wound injury.
Okay, and did the medical examiner notice that and inform you of that to take a picture of it?
Yes.
And then 2R, this is another injury that was noted by the medical examiner?
That's right.
And did you take a picture of it?
I did.
And where's that on her body? Because it's hard to tell from the detail.
I believe that's
Number?
towards the hip.
And then in 2S, was that the other injury that was noted by the medical examiner?
Yes. It's more behind the ear.
Now, aside from photographing the body is seen and the injuries, did you collect any evidence while you were there?
Just those 3 casings.
Join with the mark of State's Exhibit. State's Exhibit number 35 for identification. Ask if you can recognize it.
I do.
Okay, and what, can you open it up and take a look inside? How do you recognize it first?
Each piece of evidence is given a label that I create, and it's got my name as the original impounding officer on there, and then the rest of it's filled out.
So can you open it up and take a look inside? Okay, do you recognize what that is?
I do.
And what is that?
That is the 380 casing.
Does it appear to be in the same condition as it was when you got it?
It is.
And do you know where that one was taken from which marker?
Yes, this is marker 1.
Judge, move that State's Exhibit number 35 and admitted evidence. May I publish, Your Honor?
Jesus. Sorry. That's sorry.
I'll show you State's Exhibit number 36 for identification. Ask you to take a look at that envelope. You recognize that envelope?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
Again, the same way, it's got the label on the outside that has the identifier of where the casing was collected from, the case number, the date it was collected, and my ID.
Where does it say that casing was collected from?
Marker 2.
Can you open it up and take a
It's
look?
probably gonna have to be a short video because my daughter is coming home. So I'm probably gonna have to stop it when she gets here. Just to go get her.
What is it?
It's a 3A casing.
That's the casing you recovered on that night?
Yes, yes.
Judge Buddha, State's Exhibit number 36, is any evidence?
Any different?
No objection, Judge, I'm not gonna have any objection to the exhibits before Mr. Beckers.
All right.
Okay. I'll just, thank you, Judge.
Just,
So Judge, at this point then, with no objection, I'll go ahead and make State's Exhibit number 37 as well.
It'll be a minute.
Published, Your Honor.
You may.
Then 37 was the casing that you recovered from, would that be marker number 3?
That's correct.
We'll finish him out
Now,
and
aside
then
from,
I'll just end
photographing
it.
The scene and collecting this evidence, did you have any other?
And then we'll pick
involvement,
back up
and I know you mentioned going inside the
at
house.
the
taking
next
photos from
guy.
Inside the house. Any other involvement in the scene?
Sorry that I
Not
had
the
more
same, yeah.
time, but she
And
called
what
and
was
said
that?
they're on their way
I processed the
back.
casings for possible DNA and for possible fingerprints.
In your career, and how did you process the casings for fingerprints?
For fingerprints,
once I
first
get
thing we
her
do is run
settled,
another
we'll
system
start
called
on
the full
another
spectrum
one.
imaging system. Basically, it uses UV light in order to make latent fingerprints a little bit more visible. I didn't get any results from that. The next step was to process the casings with superglue fumes. Superglue allegedly adheres to the moisture in the fingerprint, making it visible. No results on that. I tried black powder. Again, no results. My last step was a chemical called RAM, I believe, which basically will stick to any superglue. And again, no results.
And is it common to get prints from casings?
No.
How often in your career have you ever gotten a print from a casing?
In 17 years, I've gotten a partial fingerprint, and it didn't match to anybody. And I processed thousands and thousands of casings.
One moment here.
Yeah.
I just asked this.
Cross.
Mr. Becker, when you arrived out at the scene at 10:30 at night, you indicated that already cranking tape was up and other people were already there, correct?
That's correct.
And as you were coming down the street towards this cul-de-sac area where the houses were, how many streetlights did you pass?
Oh, I can't recall.
Okay. Do you recall whether or not law enforcement themselves had to use lighting for the exterior of the house, that Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office themselves set up lighting so that you could see better out there?
I believe I set up a light.
And you did?
I think so.
Tell us exactly what you did and why you did.
Yeah, that's so there were streetlights out there. I know that my supervisors at the time like to have extra lighting, so I put up a light. It's basically it's called a nomad light. It's a big cylindrical light, pops up, and you can adjust it up to 10 or 12 feet tall. And that's what we use.
And it lightens it in not just the direct in front of you, but it kind of does a wide array of lighting. doesn't
That's
it?
correct.
And you did it cover both did it cover both of the addresses, 14108 as well as 14110?
I believe so, yes.
And when you went inside the home at 14108 to take photographs, I assume that you were directed to do so by someone based on an interview with a witness. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you went into the residence, did you talk yourself to the witness at all that had actually looked out that window to see whatever they saw?
No.
You know whether or not when you took the photographs that you took from within the home, the lights were on in that general area where those windows were?
Yes, I asked the deputy or detective, whoever was with me, I don't recall, to recreate exactly what they saw. And then I set my camera settings to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to ask you this question. And do you know whether the lights in that room were on at the time that the individual that was interviewed said that they saw something?
I believe the lights were off. Because that's, if I remember correctly, that's the way they were off on the inside when I took the photo.
So you took the lights that were on and shut them down because that's what you were told to do to recreate the best scene?
Yes.
And then the photographs that you took, these are photographs that are already in evidence from previous testimony earlier today, but let me show those to you and ask you if you recall taking these photographs, or if you recall taking photographs from a similar location.
I do.
Are those photographs that you took?
They're very similar to.
Or at least they appear to be?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate representation of what you would have seen from that window.
Yes, those pictures are illuminated with the flash that was on the camera.
So you're using a flash as you're looking out.
That's right.
So the naked eye that I have right now, it looks like the lights inside the house are also on. Am I misreading the naked eye?
It could be, and it may not be, and that may be just from the flash.
So you can't really, from the photograph, you can't really tell me whether or not the lights were on or off, or if this is just because of a flash that's illuminating more than perhaps the natural lighting would have.
It's fair, yeah.
That's fair,
Yeah.
possible. The driveway where the decedent was found, where there were the cones that you ultimately placed evidence markers at. As it relates to evidence marker number 1, could you tell me how many feet away from Ms. Dean's that was, that marker?
I didn't do the measurements. I could guess. if you like.
Yes.
Sure.
Do you need to look at photographs to show you where the markers?
No, I pretty much remember. I would think probably not more than 10, no more than 5. For sure. No less than 10, no more than 5. Other way around.
No less than 5, no
Yeah.
more than 10?
There you go.
I don't want to testify for you, but is that what you're saying?
Yes, in between 5 and 10.
All right. And how about evidence
Something
marker
like
number two?
that.
I'd say that one was a little bit closer, maybe 4 or 5 feet,
And evidence marker number 3
probably about the same distance.
as number 2?
Yes,
And you indicated that the placement of casings in some circumstances could tell you perhaps where a shooter might have been.
that's right.
However, you certainly were qualifying that by saying that casings bounce, roll, and things of that sort, correct?
That's correct.
In the photographs that I recall looking at, it would appear that the blood pattern that was traveling down.
Correct.
And there were 2 markings in one direction, 2 markers in one direction, and one in a different direction. One was at the top of the body, one was at the bottom, correct?
Correct.
All right, 2 of them. Thank you. I have nothing. Well, let me ask you one thing. I think you said to Mr. Terry that you also conducted DNA swabbings
I
for
did.
the casings.
That's right.
And did you garner any results from that?
I just take the swabs, we send them off at the LED.
Thank you. And you did that for all 3 of the cases?
That's right.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Mayor.
May this witness be excused by the state?
Yes, sir.
And by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. You may be excused and released at this time.
Okay. Well, my baby is almost home. So I will stop this one here. And I know it was a short video and what have you. And that was a CSI and a CSI. And there's going to be another CSI and some more crime tech. And then we're going to get into possibly more police and police and police. And I don't know when we're going to get into anything good. I really thought that this one was going to be interesting, but I'm still waiting for it to get good. I have hope. I have faith. It's going to get interesting. Don't give up yet. Keep watching. Because I'm going to keep hanging in there. Okay? You keep hanging in there. I'm going to keep hanging in there. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Okay.